Is it ever really too early to do predictions for what your team's going to do in the next season, right? The Super Bowl's not here yet. I understand that. The whole 2023 season still really isn't even over. But going into the offseason right now, as a Colts fan, it's been our off season. I'm ready to do the way too early prediction for next season. We know exactly who we're going to be playing. We don't know the exact schedule and what weeks we're going to be playing, but we have the home games, we have the away games. There's one extra away game for the Colts this year. But I just want to go through kind of what I'm thinking right now and how I see things going, kind of the possibilities of what I'm thinking. So as I've looked through the opponents for next year, right? We start with division games. I have a splitting with the Texans, splitting with the Jaguars, and beating the Titans twice. I think, early like this and so early, I think, that's pretty reasonable for what we saw this year from all those teams. I think we can come out of the division games 4-2 in the 2024 season. So we're already chalked up 4-2. Take those 6 games and get them out of the equation. Move on from there. If we look at the home games first, we have the Steelers, and the Steelers, their quarterback situation's up in the air. What's their offense going to look like with Arthur Smith? Is that going to make them better with Kenny Pickett or with Mason Rudolph, whoever they decide to go with? Are they going to be a better offense? Are they going to continue? It's Mike Tomlin. He's going to have a winning season. That's just what they do. Their defense is going to play well as long as TJ Watt is there. And we all know the history of the Colts versus the Steelers. Like, we just beat them this past year, but before then, we hadn't beaten them in a very long time. So it's always a toss-up coming into the Steelers game, but that's a game that I just feel like going into next season, at least at the early read right now, I think we can beat the Steelers. And we play the Bears at home also. That's another team that I think we're going to be able to beat. Eberflus coming back to Indy, staying as the Chicago Bears head coach. Is it going to be Justin Fields? Is it going to be Caleb Williams? I don't think it matters. I think one way or another, we're going to be talented enough to beat the Bears. And of course, I'm operating under the assumption that Anthony Richardson is going to be able to stay healthy, right? I understand the discourse around the fact that he could get injured again. Yeah, totally possible. There were a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL that got hurt, a lot of starting quarterbacks, even some backups. So, yes, it's totally possible that he gets hurt at some point next season. But doing all this, I'm just operating under the assumption that he'll be able to take care of himself. The offense will work in a way he'll be able to take care of himself, and he'll be just fine. Okay, so with that said, like I said, division games, we come into that 4-2. We beat the Steelers, we beat the Bears at home. So at this point, if all things go right, we're looking at 5-0 at home. But the last 3 games that we haven't talked about at home are the tricky ones, right? You have the Dolphins, you have the Bills, and you have the Lions. Okay, these are 3 very good teams. Now, what are the Dolphins going to look like this upcoming season? They have some guys that they're going to need to pay. What guys are they going to keep? How are they going to manipulate their salary cap to be able to bring in more talent? They've definitely got to get better in certain areas. Will they be able to do that? And I think there's a chance we could beat the Dolphins. Okay, I'm not saying that's a guarantee, but I think that one's more of a 50-50, right? And I think the Bills is more of a 50-50. I think the way we would match up with them, again, this is under the assumption that Anthony Richardson stays healthy. Like, I think the Bills versus the Colts next season could be one of the more exciting games of the entire season. Josh Allen, Anthony Richardson, both of those defenses and what they could be. And the fact that now with Joe Brady as the OC there for Buffalo, that offense, we saw how that offense kind of started to shift to become more of a running team, and it's opening things up in the pass game. But how good will the Bills be able to be? Gabe Davis presumably going out of the building. They have Stephon Diggs. Will they bring anybody else in to be that high-end number 2? And if they don't, I think the Bills are gettable. But the Bills are another one of those toss-up teams, right? Sean McDermott, a good coach. They have Josh Allen as their quarterback, so they'll always have a chance. Okay, in a game that I'm honestly hoping happens in early September, because I'm wanting to get back to Indiana so that I can go to an early September game at some point. I hope the Lions are in that early part of the schedule at home so that I can go see them. I'd like to see Lions versus the Colts. I think that's going to be a good game with the Lions being able to retain Ben Johnson. I think their offense is going to work the same. Now, what are they going to do at quarterback? That's really the big thing. It seems like Jared Goff is probably going to end up back in Detroit, which is why I think they're just going to keep rolling the way they have, and they're going to be a really good football team. So that's going to be another one of those toss-up games, one that I think I might be more confident that the Lions could win it than the Colts. I don't know if the defense could stop the Lions offense. That's where we're going to have to see what the Colts do defensively this offseason. Okay, and when you look at the road games, of course, you have the 3 division games. The Giants, I think the Giants, pretty much no matter what happens this offseason, I feel pretty good about the fact that the Colts are going to be able to beat the Giants in 2024. And I also don't think there's really much of a question that we'll be able to beat the Patriots. Now, there is a question like, will the Patriots get a stud? I think Jaden Daniels has a lot of potential to be really good in the NFL. I'm somebody who tends to like Jaden Daniels. I think I believe in him more than the other quarterbacks coming out in this draft. I like Drake May a lot. I think Caleb Williams is a little overhyped. If you're wondering how I'm feeling about that situation, I like Jaden Daniels a lot, and it feels like he could end up going to the Patriots in the draft at number 3 overall. So if that ends up happening, how does that change how good the Patriots are, right? Are they immediately better, right? Like Anthony Richardson, CJ Stroud level rookie, or is he going to take some time, right? Get a little better toward the end of his rookie season and then come out year 2, year 3, or whatever it is and get better. And honestly, I think it could take him a little while, and it's not really his fault. I think the roster around the quarterback there is going to have to get better too. So overall, we should be able to beat the Patriots. I also think we should be able to beat the Jets, but Aaron Rodgers is coming back. Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Famer. Aaron Rodgers is a guy, one of the best throwers of the football in NFL history. Just won 2 back-to-back MVPs a couple years ago. Like, can't count him out coming back from this Achilles injury, and I won't. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. How do they build that team around Aaron Rodgers to try to go win a Super Bowl this offseason? We'll see. But I feel like we should be able to beat the Jets, right? And the Packers are a toss-up team. They looked really good toward the end of the season. They're changing defensive coordinators. How will that affect things? Defensive coordinator they brought in to replace the one they had didn't have very good defenses in college either, and he's coming from college, so we'll see what happens there. It's an interesting situation, but that Packers offense looks dangerous. They have a lot of young guys on rookie contracts. They're probably going to have a lot of money to spend. They were the youngest team in the NFL in 2023, so we'll see how they build. That's one of those 50-50 games at this point. Not real sure how I feel about that one. But then the Vikings could easily end up with another quarterback this season. Do they get Kirk Cousins back? How does that whole situation go? Like, there's one way they could be competitive, one way they could be in rebuilding mode. So that's 50-50. I actually feel like that's, probably more, 60-40 Colts win versus Vikings win. But again, we'll see what unfolds with their quarterback situation because, that's everything. If Kirk Cousins comes back, I think they'll be a competitive team in 2024. Kind of like the Broncos, another toss-up game here with Sean Payton. They didn't look good at the beginning of 2023, but then to end 2023, they were rolling kind of. So they obviously, missed their chance, didn't get into the playoffs, but they look like they were, that culture is starting to be established. Sean Payton is about to have another year of getting his guys in the building, right? And the richest owners in the league are there for the Broncos, right? The family that owns Walmart, the Waltons. So with all the money that they have, if they want to start structuring everything to where, we'll give this guy more guaranteed money, free up some cap space, and do all that stuff that teams have been doing for a few years to be able to give more people, upfront money so they can clear some cap space. I think, that's something the Waltons could definitely do with as deep as their pockets are, and that's a road they could go. Sean Payton, again, being able to build in his image what he wants and how he wants it with the culture that he's setting in, starting to establish itself, another offseason of that. So Broncos are a toss-up team at the moment. I feel good about us going into that one next year. But again, another toss-up. So the way I see things going, at the very least, with the assumption that Anthony Richardson is going to be able to stay healthy next season, I have the Colts winning at least 10 games. Okay. And my solid prediction, the one that I went with saying, okay, I actually think we'll win this. So I think we'll win this one, is 15-2. And if you're wondering how I got to that number, I have us again going 4-2 in the division. And then coming out of that one, I honestly think like out of that, we could win all the other games. Like away, I wouldn't be surprised. Like if the only games we lose away are in Houston and in Jacksonville, I think we can win in Tennessee, New York, New England, New York again, Green Bay, Minnesota, and Denver. We can win all those games. And I honestly feel good about the fact that we could win those games. So then you look at the home schedule, beat the Texans, beat the Jaguars, beat the Titans, beat the Steelers, beat the Bears, and then the toss up games. Dolphins, I don't think they're going to be nearly as good next year as they were this year. I think they'll be, up around 7, 8 wins because they have two and because they have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Like they'll be explosive on offense, but I think their defense is going to hurt them a lot, and I think they're going to have a losing record next season. I think one of the games they lose is against the Colts. The Bills are another toss-up team. And honestly, again, with the assumption Anthony Richardson's playing, this is a game I think we can win with the way, as long as, okay, this is the asterisk. I said 15-2. It's kind of an asterisk. If everything goes right, right? If we sign Michael Pittman Jr., if we're able to trade up a little bit in the draft and go up and get Rome Odunze, right? Kind of predicted that maybe we trade up to number 9 where the Bears are and we're able to get Rome Odunze. If we're able to do that and we get depth at the receiver position, then I think there's a chance that we could come out and be an extremely explosive offense in 2024. And that's where I think we can take it over the top at a home game against the Bills. I think that's very important, being able to play inside. So whether it's early in the season, late in the season, mid-season, doesn't matter. Weather won't play a factor. I think we can win that game straight up. And then the Lions, another game that I think there's a chance we could win straight up. How good will the Lions defense get? I think there's some potential for the Lions to get better, but they're going to have to see what they got some guys that they're going to have to pay. How do they continue to build that team to continue to be able to win? And with what the Colts have, right, with the development of some of the players, if the Colts again play it right, they get an edge rusher of some sort that can put consistent pressure on the quarterback, then that's something that can sway a game like that Lions game and make that something that can change that game a little bit. So at most, I see the Colts going 15-2. At the least, I see us going 10-7. Will that be enough to get into the playoffs? That's the question. The AFC presumably just getting much better. The Patriots have an early pick. They could get a quarterback, and if it's Jaden Daniels, then we're going to have another young stud coming into the AFC. So going to continue to be more and more tough to make it into the playoffs. But again, I see us getting 10 wins. I'd like to know what your early prediction is for what we're going to see next season. You let me know down in the comment section. And of course, don't forget to subscribe with notifications on. Tomorrow, I want to talk about breakout candidates and who I think we should be looking for to be guys that are going to break out in 2024 for the Colts. So again, subscribe, have those notifications on so you get notified when that comes out and any more daily content that we have. And with that said, I appreciate you joining for another video. As always, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and go Colts.